It's up to us, as a friend, as a brother, as a person that witnesses harm to another. Is it not our time to shine, time to watch out for one another, stop all the hearsay whispers using the internet to spread rumours? How many familiar faces do we need to see in the papers? Facebook statuses in remembrance of all those tragic cases. Knowing that we stood back, tight-lipped, it's not our problem, not our responsibility, so don't get involved with them. It's up to us to change our view. It's up to us to change the way we help one another, let those know that are suffering that we're here too. See, people bully people. It isn't schools, Facebook, comments online that ruin lives. It's the people behind the screen that's typing in those lies. To me, death isn't the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside us when we're trying to live our life. It's up to us to stop this, to take action, to act against the torment of watching another person we know and know of live a life of online torment. No law is gonna change this, no rules and regulations, only we can change this. You and me, him and her, them, those, people that we know that can use their voice to say no. We need to stand together, we're not gonna take it anymore. We need to empower ourselves, push ourselves to put a stop to it all. But see, we can make this better with a simple act, a simple word. Stand together. It's up to us, it's up to me, it's up to you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Foróige's online safety event. My name is Darrell Welch, and I'm a training officer with Foróige's training, learning and development function. And I'm delighted to be your host for this evening's event. So this evening, we will hear from experts and young people on online safety topics for the next hour. And what a fantastic way to open the event with the video from ex-Foróige member, Rocc. So before we get going, I'd just like to thank all those involved in the development of the online safety program. And unfortunately, Jessica Murphy, who's the Senior Youth Officer for the program, can't be with us this evening. But just to say a special well done to Jessica and her team for bringing the program to where it is today. So I suppose this evening is about creating a space for both Foróige staff and volunteers to gain knowledge and insight into what's happening regarding online safety within Foróige and the resources that are available to you guys. And we will have some very special guests along the way with us this evening. So before we get going, we might just take a look at an overview in terms of what this evening's event will cover, okay? So we will have a look at some online safety facts and statistics. We will give you an overview of the online safety program itself, and we'll take a look at what's involved in that. We will have input from our fantastic youth advocacy group. We will also have Dr. Tijana Milosevic from DCU's Anti-bullying Centre, and Tijana will give us an overview or an insight rather into cyberbullying. We have Foróige's Assistant CEO and Director of Operations, John Cahill, on the call, and John will give us an insight or an input with regards to online safety and safeguarding within Foróige. We will also take you guys through some best practice, so some do's and don'ts in terms of online safety, and then we will share some information around the program launch and training then that will become available in the coming months. So today's event is quite a short one. We don't have a huge amount of time for questions and answers. So you will notice on your screen, so on the Zoom screen, you will notice there's a Q&A section on that. If you do have any questions on the content that's covered this evening, feel free to pop them into the Q&A section. What we're going to do, we had an event this morning and this evening's event. So what we'll do is we will compile those questions and we will send them out to you guys in an email after the event. If you do have any questions or queries regarding the program after today's event, do drop us an email. It's onlinesafety@foróige.ie with any queries you have, and we'll be in touch with you guys after that. So what we are going to do is to start the event with an online safety quiz. So the quiz really has some stats and facts relating to online safety, and it's also going to give you just a flavor of some of the topics that are covered in the program itself. Okay, so we might move on to the first question then on our quiz. So the first question on our quiz is FOMO stands for what? So FOMO, F-O-M-O, stands for what? Does it stand for fresh out of mandarin oranges? Does it stand for fear of musical orchestras or instruments? Or does it stand for fear of missing out? Okay, so which one of those do you think it stands for? Okay, perfect. So everybody, fair play, everybody went for fear of missing out. Okay, so FOMO, you're dead right, it's fear of missing out. So FOMO, really, it's the anxiety and discomfort somebody feels when they think they're missing out on fun experiences. I think we've all been there. So it is normal to feel down when you miss an event. However, those with FOMO experience heightened levels of anxiety, insecurity, jealousy, and resentment. Okay, so just to be aware of that. Great, we're off to a good start. Okay, next question. Irish young people are the fourth most prolific sexters in the EU. Do you guys think that that is true, or do you think it's false? So Irish young people are the fourth most prolific sexters in the EU. Okay, so we're a little bit more divided on this one. So 56 people saying true, 16 saying false. So I suppose to the majority, you're absolutely right. According to research presented by Dr. Bowman, Irish young people are the fourth most prolific sexters in the EU. So from a survey, that was from a survey with 300 secondary schools in Ireland in 2016. So more than 1 in 4 young people said they have sent a sext. Okay, it's absolutely true. Great. Okay, next one. So a majority of Irish young people feel supported by online platforms when making a report. So those platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat. So Irish young people feel supported by online platforms when making a report. Do you think that's true, or do you think that that is false? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so again, a little bit mixed, but the majority going for false. Okay, and you are correct. So the answer is false. Okay, and a report from 2021 stated that a majority of young people that report forms of cyberbullying did feel let down by the platforms they reported to. And just to give you another sense of that, so 1 in 3 young people don't report cyberbullying when it happens to them. Okay, so there is kind of a large number of unreported cyberbullying issues to online platforms. Okie doke, next question. So playing games is bad for young people. So online games, I suppose we're referring to. So PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, is bad for young people. Do you think that that is true, false, or are you a little bit unsure? Okay, yeah, so quite a large number saying false, a few kind of unsures, and 3 saying true. And I suppose what research would tell us is that gaming in moderation is okay. So we would say game in moderation. So there is evidence to suggest that games can help children develop logical, literary, executive, and social skills. Okay, so there's a lot of skill development in terms of online games, but like anything, I think we're probably all aware of, some of the dangers maybe in terms of online use. So like anything, it is important to play in moderation, and that's what evidence would tell us. Okay, last question on our Mentimeter. The online safety program is focused on what? Do you think it's focused on making sure young people have strong passwords, enforcing legislation online, or do you think it is based on a holistic approach to safety online? Brilliant. Okay, so again, vast majority of people, holistic approach to safety online, and you're absolutely right. So the program is a holistic approach to safety online. The program aims to promote safer use of digital resources, and then equipping young people with the skills to safely benefit from being online. So it isn't about saying, don't go online because it's dangerous. It's about, equipping young people with the skills to safely benefit from being online, and also to empower young people to safely participate in their online communities as positive digital citizens. And I think, if the last few years has taught us anything, it's that, safely using that and being a positive digital citizen is really important. Okay, so thanks a million, everybody, and well done for taking part in our Mentimeter activity. So as I said at the beginning, those topics are covered in the program. So it just gives you a sense or a flavor of kind of, what's included within the online safety program. So just to take you through an overview then of the program itself, so you guys have a better understanding. The online safety program, we would say, is suitable for 12 to 18-year-olds. So it's been designed for 12 to 18-year-olds. The beauty of the program is that it can be facilitated in person, online, or actually through a blended approach. Okay. The program can be used in all settings, so Foróige clubs, Foróige projects, and also all youth services as well, I suppose. And then the resource is designed to be used by a trained facilitator with a group of 5 to 15 young people. So depending on their needs, and also due to the interactive nature of the program. But we would say that it can be adapted for individual work. And I know for some people on the call that's important, that it can be adapted for individual work with young people. So just to show you the different topics covered then, just on the next slide, you can see here that there's 12 sessions in the program itself. You'll see here there's 2 different colors on each of those. So you'll have the purple. So the purple sessions 1 to 6 and session 12. Those are the core sessions within the program. So sessions 1 to 6 and session 12 is the core sessions. And those should be completed. So it's important that those are completed as part of the program. The yellow then are our elective sessions. So there's 5 elective sessions, and those are sessions 7 to 11. We would recommend that you complete at least 2 of those elective sessions. You can choose those, I suppose, based on the needs of your young people. So have a look at those and, complete at least 2 of those elective sessions. But it is important that the core sessions are complete. Each session is estimated to take in and around 1 hour, but it can be broken into 2 parts. So you could run 2 sessions taking 30 minutes each for each of those sessions, if that works best for you guys. I will give you the dates, the training dates that are upcoming for training before the end of the webinar, just so you are aware of those before you leave this morning. Okay, great. So the Online Safety Initiative is very, very lucky to have a youth advocacy group that informs the development of the program. It is open to young people aged 14 to 18 years of age. And really their role is to represent the voice of young people and play an active part in the development of the online safety program and resources. So obviously it's hugely important to Foróige that when we're developing programs that we have the input of young people, because the programs are designed for young people. So if you would like to know more around the Online Safety Youth Advocacy Group, you can contact us onlinesafety@foróige.ie, and we'll be happy to get back to you with any information. So before the event today, Jessica Murphy, our Senior Youth Officer for Online Safety, met with members of the Youth Advocacy Group to hear their thoughts on the program. So we're going to share with you now what that Youth Advocacy Group had to say.
So we have young people from our Online Safety Youth Advocacy Group, and they're going to give us some feedback on the online safety program and their experiences of being part of the online safety youth advocacy group.
Hi, I'm Anthony and I'm from Galway.
Hi, I'm Hannah McHale and I'm from Kildare.
Hi, my name's Niamh de Hall and I am from Donegal.
Okay, so we'll start with Anthony, if that's okay. So Anthony, what have you enjoyed the most from being part of the online safety youth advocacy group?
Well, I've enjoyed many things, Jessica, especially making new skills, like collaboration. So for example, we used many applications on our computers, for example, Padlet, and that helped us have a say and also help develop the program more. I also enjoyed meeting new friends, Niamh and Hannah, and learning new things in the program. So for example, I never knew what a digital footprint was, and after a couple of lessons, I understood what it was. So yeah.
Great. Now you're the expert.
Yeah.
And how does it feel to play an active part in the development of the online safety program?
I feel it gives me a sense of an accomplishment, and I'm more involved in the community. And I also believe that it helps us take a step to helping future generations, as they're the ones that they're going to spend more time online and on the internet.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks a million for that, Anthony. We're going to move on to Hannah next. So Hannah, what online safety topics do you think young people need support with?
I personally believe that young people need the most support when it comes to cyberbullying. Anyone can be a victim of cyberbullying. It does not discriminate to a certain age category or certain specific people. We need to be more aware of the dangers and risks that occur on social media platforms. And we also need to make sure that we know how to deal with cyberbullying if we're going through it, and to know that you're not alone.
Absolutely. And what online safety topics or activities have you enjoyed participating in during the youth advocacy meetings?
I really enjoyed learning about the fake news. The activities to go along with that were really fun. And I learned loads about fake news and how to spot it online. I also really enjoyed the icebreakers we played, as we got to get to know everyone in the group.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks a million for that, Hannah. And we're going to move on to Niamh. So Niamh, what stands out to you from the online safety program?
So what stands out to me the most about the online safety program is how well suited it is to young audiences. I feel like it's different from other programs because all the sessions are really fun, they're interactive, and there's additional elective sessions where you can choose based on the audience of young people there. And I feel like that's really different. And why it's so successful is because all the sessions were tested by groups of young people, like the Youth Advocacy Group, where we have an opportunity to provide honest feedback in order to improve each session to be more suited to young people.
Absolutely. And would you recommend the program to a friend?
I would definitely recommend this program to my friends. It is an amazing program with wide interactive sessions and activities. And even if you think you know everything about online safety, each session you'll come away with new information, and you'll also have the opportunity to share your own experiences with other young people.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Niamh, and thanks for everyone to take some time to feedback on the program and your experience of being part of the Online Safety Youth Advocacy Group.
Okay, great. And yes, just to thank the Online Safety Youth Advocacy Group for providing their feedback for this evening. I suppose also for the brilliant work they have done to date regarding the online safety program and its development. And then in terms of what's happening with the program and training at the moment, we have a pilot taking place with internal and external staff, volunteers, and also some students. And really, this will inform the evaluation of the program so we can make any necessary tweaks or improvements based on the feedback from trained facilitators and young people. So just to give you an idea of some of the feedback from that training, we've put together this slide just in terms of some of that feedback. So overall, participants mentioned to us that they enjoyed getting involved with the activities. They felt it was interactive, very well structured, with useful resources. So you can see also kind of the last part there around getting first-hand experiences with some of the mediums that they use, so Kahoot and Mentimeter. And I know the young people are also appreciative of that as well. So just a kind of a snapshot of what's coming back in terms of the pilot training. So it's great to have that feedback also. So we're going to move on then. And as I said at the beginning, we have an input from Dr. Tijana Milosevic from the DCU Anti-bullying Center. And Tijana will share her expertise and knowledge with us around cyberbullying. She will also provide us with an overview of the impact of cyberbullying and some up-to-date research in relation to the same. So we're just going to share that input from Dr. Tijana Milosevic now.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tijana Milosevic, and I work as a research fellow at the DCU Anti-bullying Center. So today I'll talk about cyberbullying in Ireland, so prevalence, how frequent it is, the impact that it leaves on children and young people, and I'll also give you some advice and resources on how you could handle it if it happens to someone you know. So how do we actually understand cyberbullying? So cyberbullying, digital or online bullying, as it is also known, is an intentional repeated harm using digital technology. So it can happen on social media, in games platforms, direct messaging like WhatsApp or Telegram, and increasingly, as we see also in virtual reality, as you see in media reports as well. Examples can include mean comments, pages or photos or videos mocking someone, but also exclusion. So excluding someone from an online activity or a group is also cyberbullying. Definitions are derived from offline bullying, and they are not always easy to translate online. So for example, establishing repetition is a good example of this. Offline, a behavior that is bullying can happen over a period of time, and for instance, physical attacks can happen several times. But online, even a single incident, so one post, can be seen by many people, and then it can be replicated offline or online, or the post can be shared many times, reshared, which also then constitutes repetition. So one act might really be enough if it has a public audience for this to be cyberbullying. Anonymity is an important aspect of cyberbullying sometimes. So some young people may not know who is actually bullying them because they're hiding behind a username, for instance. But we also know from research that many young people actually know who their perpetrators are, because many cyberbullying incidents actually happen in the context of offline relationships. So in school context, or it could be, for instance, friends who fell out and one is targeting another one. So very often children actually know who their so-called bullies are. Definitions are widely debated in the research community, and also prevalence rates really depend and vary from study to study based on sort of which definitions were used in the study and whether we ask participants if this happened to them in the past year or ever in their lifetime. So you'll see quite different numbers, and sometimes in the media you'll see much larger numbers than we find in research, sometimes because they're misinterpreted. So sometimes they get them wrong. So this is actually the latest data from Ireland, according to NACO's report, National Advisory Council on Online Safety, which used the following explanation to ask 9 to 17-year-old internet using children about their cyberbullying and bullying experiences. So they asked them, they gave them the following explanation. Sometimes children or teens say or do hurtful or nasty things to someone, and this can often be quite a few times on different days or over a period of time, for example. This can include teasing someone in a way this person does not like, hitting, kicking, or pushing someone around, leaving someone out of things. So when people are hurtful or nasty to someone in this way, it can happen face-to-face, by mobile phones, or on the internet. So they ask participants how often this happened to them. And this is data from Ireland from 2021. So 9 to 17-year-old internet using children. We see that 11% of them have experienced cyberbullying in the past year, and 17% actually experienced offline bullying. And girls were more likely to be affected both offline and online, as you can see, according to this study. So what were actually these cyberbullying behaviors that affected young people? So 59%, that means slightly less than 2/3, said that nasty or hurtful messages were sent to them. almost a quarter, 24%, said that nasty or hurtful messages were passed around or posted what others could see. And 28% said that they were actually excluded from a group or activity on the internet. Looking now at where Ireland stands when compared to other European countries, this is data from the EU Kids Online Research Network published in 2020 from 19 European countries on national samples. And these are 9 to 16-year-olds. So we see that the European average is 14% of children have actually experienced cyberbullying across Europe on average. So Ireland rates just below actually the European average according to this data. However, I have to emphasize that during the lockdown, Anti-Bullying Center found a quite different actually picture. It was very worrying because we saw much larger numbers of cyberbullying prevalence rates. So this is data from 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown. So it was collected in the summer for 10 to 18-year-old children in Ireland, and 28% of them actually experienced cyberbullying victimization during the lockdown. This could be to an extent contributed to the fact that the internet and just digital technology was used a lot more for all activities during the lockdown, not just for socialization and for just leisure, but also for learning, so for educational purposes. And so what are the impacts of cyberbullying? So this is again the NACOS report from 2021. So how are actually children affected when cyberbullying happens? So among children who experienced cyberbullying victimization in the past year, almost a half, 43%, said that they were fairly or very upset. And just less than a third, so 30%, actually felt a little upset. So the majority of children feel upset in some way. 27% said that they did not feel upset. I have to say that some children feel a lot more than upset. Some could develop anxiety in relation to cyberbullying and bullying, depression, even suicidal thoughts, or they can develop lower self-esteem or just poor performance at school. So while this is not the case, I have to emphasize for all children, some children may have more adverse effects than others. So it's important to actually provide them with good interventions. So coming to that, what can you do when cyberbullying happens? So typical instructions that we give to young people is to report to their parents or guardians. So to tell someone not to suffer on their own. To tell their teachers or to other adults that they trust. We also tell them to report. So to use something called report buttons, reporting options, which I'll get to in a second, on social media platforms, and to actually alert the platform this is happening, and so that the site can actually take this content down, or to block the person who is doing this, which prevents them from contacting them further, or for posting comments in relation to them, or from tagging them in any way. We also tell them to gather evidence, so to take screenshots of the behavior or any photos or anything that can actually be used to evidence the case. And so we tell them to do all of this, yet many young people actually do not tell anyone, then they go through this on their own. So why is that the case? Well, young people very often may think that adults may not understand, that they might be dismissive, which is what sometimes happens, that they think it's just this childish thing. They may not take it seriously. So they might be just cautious to come forward. Another reason is that they might be fearful that just adults will not understand. So they'll take away their technology access. So they'll take away their phones, they'll ban them, access to social media. And so, or they might just tell them to, not use the internet, which is typically not very helpful because social media is where really their social lives unfold. So telling them to just go offline and just not engage is not necessarily helpful. That can be a measure for some young people for a while, for a limited period of time, just to get a break. But typically this is really not a long-term solution. So young people very often do not come forward, even though we tell them to. So it's extremely important to really advise parents and to also to tell them that they need to build really to work on that relationship with the young person, so that they can actually talk, that they want to talk to them when something negative happens, and that they really approach them from a place of understanding. And it's also important, if you work, of course, with young people, to do the same. to try to build that relationship so that they will actually tell you. Here are some of the really good resources that I could recommend in Ireland. There are many others. This is just a selection. So the Anti-Bullying Centre has the tacklebullying.ie website where you can find information that you need based on research in very simple terms about cyberbullying and what to do when it happens, and also the latest platforms where, so the latest like social media where this actually happens. So we track all of that, and I encourage you to visit the site. There's also webwise.ie, which offers excellent resources as well. They're part of the Irish Safer Internet Centre, where you can find advice and tips on what to do. And you can also encourage young people to really talk to the ISPCC, which is a service that provides really not only a helpline where they can call when they have a problem and talk to someone, but they can also chat and use their online platforms with resources and ways to connect. So these are just some of the resources. I highly encourage you to let them know that they exist and to advise them to engage. Also, I would advise them to report to really social media platforms. And if they don't know how to do it, I would encourage you to visit really the help centers or safety centers, which many social media companies like Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, many others have, where you have explanations on how to report if you don't know how to report, how to block if you don't know how to block. So on that particular platform, you can also report if you don't have an account, so you can help someone. So there are many ways to actually do this, and it's all detailed in these companies' safety and help centers. So I encourage you to take a look at those. There are also other ways in which you can disengage from someone who might be targeting you. So these are offered by some social media sites, and they're called muting and restricting options. So very often young people say they might be reluctant to report or block because they fear that the person who is targeting them will know that they have been reported or blocked. So they might get even more upset, and they might do something to them offline if they know each other, or they just, may not be able to know anymore what they're talking about online behind their back. So a more subtle way to do this might be to mute or restrict someone, which is actually just you don't see their content anymore in your feeds. And also, for instance, when you restrict, they can still comment, for instance, on your post, but no one else sees their comments and they don't know that this is the case. So it's more difficult to figure that out for them. There are more subtle ways to do it. So I encourage you to visit the help and safety centers to explore those options. Finally, companies are engaging more and more in artificial intelligence for proactive cyberbullying interventions. This means that they use artificial intelligence to catch cyberbullying even before it's actually reported by young people. So it can be caught in that way as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, and a massive thank you to Dr. Tijana for that, very interesting research, the insight that she has given us in terms of cyberbullying, and also giving her time for today's event. So thanks a million to Tijana. So now it's the exciting part of the evening. We have a chance for you guys to win a prize. So this morning I was channeling my inner Chris Tarrant. I think I'm going to change tack now and go with Jeremy Clarkson. So it's a bit of a fastest finger first. Okay. So what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to display a question on the screen. I'll call it out as well. And the first person to input the correct answer into the chat box. Okay. So no, not the Q&A box, the chat box. So the chat is enabled for you guys. First person to put the correct answer into the chat box will receive a €100 voucher for DID Electrical. Okay, so best of luck. So we'll bring up the question in a moment. We'll give you a chance to get your fingers at the ready on your keyboard, and we'll bring up that question. So, what does WWW stand for? What does WWW stand for? Okay, the answers are flying in. Brilliant. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pass over to Aoife, and Aoife has been monitoring the chat for me. And Aoife is going to have a look and see who our winner for this evening is.
Hi, everybody. And the winner is, the fastest finger is Darren Shanahan.
Well done, Darren. Bula bus. Great stuff.
Gorgeous.
So Darren, we will be in contact with you and you will receive a €100 voucher for DID. Not bad. Fair play. Okay, great stuff. Thanks a million, everybody, for doing that. So I suppose you will all know that online safety and safeguarding is very important. It's a very important role to ensure that we keep young people safe. So we are delighted this evening to have John Cahill, the Assistant CEO and Director of Operations within Foróige, to share some valuable information with us in terms of where online safety fits into our work. So John, thanks a million for joining us again this evening.
No problem. You're very welcome. And as I said this morning, I've got to follow the very exciting competition, but at least I know that you're all still with it and active in the brain. So there's an advantage to it as well. So anyway, listen, thanks very much. I'm delighted to be here. So I'm just going to share my screen with you there. So in terms of what I want to talk through it, in terms of the whole area of online safety and safeguarding, where it sits in the organization. So in my role as Assistant CEO and Director of Operations within Foróige, I have overall responsibility for safeguarding and protection with regards to young people. And over the next few minutes, as I said, I'm going to be just kind of looking how that sits and where online safety sits in that. So just moving on then from that point of view. So to begin with, I'll focus on the safeguarding piece in particular within Foróige, just to kind of to set the context there. It's the policy of the board of Foróige that all our staff and all our adult volunteers take all reasonable care to ensure that children and young people involved in our clubs, our projects or services right across Foróige are protected from abuse of any kind. Child safeguarding and protection, we describe it as being paramount within the organisation, and that really what that means is that it always comes first in everything we do. So if there's a safeguarding or protection issue, that's where the focus goes at all times. We must always ensure that every young person that we engage with in the organisation, first and foremost, is safe and protected from harm while they're with us. Now, I just want to go through very quickly. Sometimes people get a bit confused between the context of safeguarding and harm and what we describe as health and safety. This is not harm in kind of trip hazards and stuff. That this is specifically how we define harm in this context is as follows. It's set out in the legislation and it's categorized as either assault, ill treatment, which could be cruelty, abandonment or bullying. It could be neglect, and that would be deprivation of food or warmth or safety or medical care, or it could be sexual abuse. That's what's meant in the definition and under safeguarding as harm. So we're required to protect young people when they engage with Foróige in relation to those particular issues. Now, as I said, it's all underpinned in law. It was set out in Children First 2015, and then there was an addendum to Children First, which was issued in 2019, and was specifically looking at the issue of online safety. So this legal kind of context, this legislation, it determines our legal responsibilities as an organisation and as adults working or volunteering within Foróige who are engaging with young people. So this sets out what we have to do. So just moving on very quickly, under that legislation, it requires us to produce two items. One is a harm risk register, and the second is a safeguarding statement. And we're also required to review and update them every 2 years. We've just completed the process and updated both documents, and both make specific reference in these iterations we have at the moment to online safety. By this time, and please God tell me that you have, every Foróige Club project and programme across the country should have the updated child safeguarding statement on display in our facilities or where we work with young people. And it looks like the document in the left of the slide that you're looking at. And I'm hoping that looks very familiar to you. The design hasn't really changed particularly over the last 2 iterations of this, but the content has changed in some subtle ways. So this is the safeguarding statement that we must have on display for the next 2 years. With regards to the risk register, we've updated this as well, and this is available to anybody who looks for it. We don't have it public facing, but it is available. It's a document that looks a little bit like the one on the right-hand side of the screen, except for it's a lot bigger than this. It's about 12 pages, and it's quite difficult So for any staff that are looking to access the risk register, it's available on the staff portal. And for any volunteers, the risk register is available on request from your club support worker. So if that's something that you're interested in and want to have a deeper look at, please feel free to look for it. So let me move on then back to online safety and where this all sits, right? As I said, the government in 2019 issued this addendum to Children First 2015, which specifically focused us on looking at online safety. It recognises the central role of the internet and new technologies and how they now play a kind of a significant role in all our lives. But it highlights our responsibility in ensuring that young people are safe in their use of these. For us, this means that we're now required to consider specific issues of online safety when carrying out our risk assessment and preparing our safeguarding statement. So, in trying to identify the nature of the harm that young people might be at risk of while online, we have determined some specific areas. So, under risk of ill treatment, we need to consider the risk of online bullying or cyberbullying. This is where this would sit, and that young people might experience while they're online in relation to Foróige. Under the risk of neglect, we need to consider the risk to their safety online that could be caused by them giving out personal information, their location, and so on, but also allowing them to have access to or producing or circulating inappropriate material while online in relation to Foróige. So that kind of falls under the area of the risk of neglect. And then finally, the risk of sexual abuse online. This is similar to in somewhat to the area of neglect, in that it's mostly about inappropriate materials, but in this case, we specifically need to consider the soliciting of, the production of, or the circulation of sexual images, or being exposed to predators who might groom them online while involved with Foróige. Now, I know that sounds really all very scary, but I don't want you to be freaked out. That's not the purpose of this at all. The purpose of the risk register is to look at all these possible risks that young people might experience while being involved with the organisation, however unlikely, and then look at how we actually then might reduce these risks and mitigate against them. What controls do we put in place to make sure that, you know, any risk that's there, it's reduced down as far as it can be? We're not saying that while young people are engaged with this, that they're significantly at risk of any of this harm. However, we are saying that the risk could be there, and this is how we try to reduce and eliminate the risk. And there's another bonus to actually working and focusing on that kind of stuff. Don't forget, if we can facilitate young people to be safe online while they're involved with Foróige, we're also facilitating them to be safe online in all aspects of their lives. So the skills and values and habits and practices that they develop while they're with us online, they then can take those and apply them in all aspects of their life. So there's a bonus to it as well. So I just want to show you a page out of the risk register, just to give you a sense of how we do this, so that you can understand how we identify the risk, we look at who the potential perpetrator is, and we look at controls. So here's an example of a page out of the risk register. In this sample of the document, we're looking at the risk of sexual abuse to a young person. And the perpetrator here would be another young person. We're not talking, we have another page for adults and so on. But this one specifically looks at young person to young person risk of sexual abuse. And again, remember, we're looking at it in the context of that they might experience that in some way with Foróige. You can see that we list the controls that we have in place to reduce this risk. And we've divided them into two columns. One is, you know, that risk that can happen face to face when people are engaging with each other in groups, or, you know, overnight trips or whatever it might be. And the other then is the piece around the online. So and that's how we've had to focus more on the online piece. We've looked at what are Foróige doing, what controls do we have in place to minimize that risk. It's important to note that in relation to what we do to reduce the risk of online sexual abuse, and indeed other online risks as such, you can see that this particular program, the Foróige Online Safety Program, is really, really important in this whole area, because it is actually, as Daryl has outlined and framed, kind of exploring all the different kind of aspects of online behaviors and risks in terms of safety and so on, and attitudes and behaviors and so on as well. So this program is really one of the linchpins in how we're actually going about reducing risks to young people in relation to online safety. And just for the purpose of this session, let's not look at the columns on the right. That's just got to look at us to identify the likelihood and the impact of those. And that's a conversation for another time as such. So the second last thing I just want to mention is the safeguarding statement itself. And as I said, you should have these at your premises, you should have them in your clubs, you should have them in your programs and projects, wherever you're working. So on the safeguarding statement, it's worth noting that we've now added in the middle column there, the risk identified is the risk of online abuse is now listed separately. And we then list the mitigating procedures that are in place. And again, you'll see that we're saying very clearly that the online safety program is one of these key kind of controls that reduces this risk. So in conclusion, from a safety and safeguarding and protection point of view, you can see that the online safety program is not just a nice to have, it's a vital element in relation to our responsibility under the law to keep children and young people free and safe from harm, and in particular online harm. The program is particularly noteworthy from a safeguarding and protection point of view in that it fulfills two significant requirements under that addendum that I mentioned. One is to help young people to keep safe from harm online, and the second piece is it also supports and encourages young people themselves to develop safe and responsible online behaviours towards others, both within Foróige but also whenever they're online. I think there was a reference to a comment that was made that was developing positive digital citizens, and that's very much the kind of the second part of what we're trying to do here. So that's it, really, just to kind of try to frame this whole online safety program within that whole safeguarding and protection area. Thanks for listening. I hope it helps you understand kind of where we are at with this program and why we're going in this direction and how important it is. Thank you.
Thanks a million, John, for that context and for the valuable input around the online safety and safeguarding within the organisation. We appreciate it. So I suppose in order to support young people with online safety, we have put together for you guys some do's and don'ts to keep in mind if you are focusing on that. So Eoin Dolan, who's a project worker with Sound Surfers, is just going to share some of those tips with you guys now.
Good morning, Daryl. So should see the our do's and don'ts list here. So this is a little takeaway for everybody after today's webinar, and just hopefully it's a good, I suppose, taster of what's to come with the online safety program. So we'll just take a few examples from each column. So first column there under do's, have a look at being realistic. So one of the young people there in the video that we watched at the start from the youth panel mentioned like fake news and the importance of understanding fake news. So I think it's really important when we talk about online safety is to be able to match up some of these sentiments around online safety with practical real life examples. So fake news could be one, it could be scam texts that we get through WhatsApp, and various other, I suppose day-to-day real life examples around online safety. It's very, very important to keep that in mind, work with young people. And then if we look at the don't list, then don't normalize online harassment. So fortunately, although it's all too common, online harassment, it should never be something that's ever accepted. I think we have a duty to create a more healthy online environment for young people, to encourage them to be part of this process, and I suppose to challenge this narrative all the time that this is in some way kind of normal, because it never is, and it's completely unacceptable. And then finally, another example then we could look at is around, don't stop with just password and security advice. Having a strong password isn't the start and finish of online safety. I think we can move far beyond that, and I would definitely echo John Cahill's sentiments there around being positive digital citizen and the importance for young people to promote healthy and pro-social behavior online. So I really would encourage anybody to do the upcoming training for this program, because it's a very important part to play for the development of young people going forward.
Thanks a million, Eoin. And it's always great leaving a training or webinar with a takeaway. So thanks for sharing those do's and don'ts. So as we come to the end, or come towards the end of the event, I'm going to share just some information with you around training. Okay, so training in terms of the online safety program will become available in October. So it will become available to all staff within the youth sector from October onwards. In terms of staff, internal Foróige staff can register through Business World as normal. And then our volunteers, you can register through a Google form. And we will share more information with you closer to those dates in terms of how you can register for that training. We have lots of online safety information on our staff portal, and we're just going to show you a quick clip to the staff in terms of where you can find that on the staff portal.
If you scroll down the homepage of the staff portal, you'll find training, learning and development, programs, then online safety program. Here you'll find information about the new online safety program, including some of the topics covered and the program aims. At the bottom of the page, there is additional information relating to the online safety initiative. We have information about the youth advocacy group and how young people can get involved. We've had opportunities for youth advocacy group members to voice their opinion at events. We have online safety resources, which provides a number of documents related to online safety. These can be helpful while working with young people in person and online. We have online safety statistics with up-to-date reports and news related to online safety. We also have a series of hints and tips from Safer Internet Day.
Okay, so as staff, that's where you will access that information. If you're a volunteer and you would like some of that information or would like additional information, you can contact your club support worker and they'll be able to help you out in terms of accessing further information in relation to the program. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of our event this evening. We would like to thank you all for attending our first online safety event within Foróige, and just to say a huge thank you to everybody that has been involved in the development of the program to date. And I know that the program is going to go from strength to strength. So as I said at the start, if you do have any questions after today's event, do please email onlinesafety@foróige.ie. And any questions that have come in, we will compile those and we will email them out to all attendees over this morning and this evening's session. Okay, so thanks a million everybody for attending and have a lovely rest of your evening.